Hey everyone, welcome to the Roto Grinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevie TPFL. It's July 7th. It's Thursday. Thursday usually means split slates, but today there's only two early games. We're going to kind of stay away from those games. I didn't see a lot of action on the sites for them, so we're going to talk about the 9 late games here and really focus on those. Bringing in my main man here, Derek Carty. How you doing, my friend?
I've been promoted to main man status, so how could I not be fantastic right now?
Oh, I think I say that everybody, but hey, if it makes you feel better,
feel not special all of a sudden. It's just an emotional roller coaster.
well, you did dog my boy Xander on the show today, so
That is true. I did do that.
So
People were so upset about that. Like, that might have been the worst I've ever seen chat get over something that I said.
well, I'm a Red Sox fan, so we're not even going to get into that. We'll start throwing bows over the computer, and we don't ever want that to happen.
Especially not at the start of the show. I mean, if one of us gets knocked out, and then, how are we going to do the analysis?
Yeah, that's true. And then I'm going to get these nasty emails. Why didn't you do a podcast? And, just all these things.
Artie's beautiful face. Like, it's going to be a whole thing. So,
oh, man. So, looking at this slate, when we're first looking at this slate, it's a pretty interesting slate. I mentioned that we have 9 games. A lot to talk about because there's just a lot of question marks when it comes to starting pitching, which usually results in a lot of hitters on slate.
Yeah. Pitching is gross, to say the least, today. Like, there's no clear-cut number one. There's certainly no clear-cut number two. It's a gross pitching day.
We're going to talk about that before we get into it. Let's bring up our sponsor, FantasyDraft.com. Make sure you guys head on over to Fantasy Draft. If you like the podcast Monday through Friday, they're the reason that we're doing the podcast. They sponsor it. They pay the bucks to make sure that this podcast happens every day. So head on over to FantasyDraft.com. Use promo code Grinders, and that way you get a 100% deposit bonus up to $600, and you get in free incentives here at Roto Grinders for Fantasy Draft for free for a year. So let's talk baseball. We have Detroit at Toronto. That's where we're going to start it off here. Justin Verlander, Drew Hutchinson. Hutchinson. I want to put an N in his name.
There should be an N. I don't know. It flows better. But yeah, Hutchison.
I know. For the last 3 years, I've wanted to put an N in his name. Man, where do we go with these pitchers here?
Honestly, and it's going to sound crazy, but and it sucks because this is the first game and I'm about to recommend a terrible pitcher, but I think Hutchison is a viable SP2 option on DraftKings just because, as we're going to see, pitching is gross today, and Hutchison is one of the only cheap guys that's in anything resembling a decent matchup. It's not a great matchup on a normal day. You're not considering him at all, but he's at home. He's facing a Detroit team that's going to probably roll out 8 righties. There's a little bit of strikeout upside with Hutchison. He's not a good pitcher, but what he does do well is get some strikeouts. So I don't know. I can see the case for a cheap Hutchison play as an SP2.
I can't. I don't want to be completely opposite on the first game, but you said that Detroit's going to roll out a lot of righties here, and it's a smaller sample size, but last year he really struggled with righties, gave up a lot of hard contact and a lot of home runs. So a fly ball type pitcher, he's actually pretty neutral when it comes to fly ball, ground ball, but against a right-handed power team, I don't know if I can get on board with you here.
Yeah, I like a bigger sample for my platoon splits. The way I have it projected is he's still considerably better against righties than he is against lefties, so that doesn't concern me too much that he struggled there last year. It's not like this is a play I'm excited about. It's not like it's a play that, again, on a normal day, it's not in consideration at all. Today, yeah, all right, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, today, I'm not there with you, but I guess it makes merit on a day like today. Yeah, throughout his career, I guess he's been a little bit better against righties. He hasn't been good at all. So, it's really tough to say. But any interest in Verlander here?
No, but not because he's not a good pitcher, just because, how do you play a pitcher against the Blue Jays? How do you do it? And can I tell Ian Kennedy for 1 second, how does he get 10 strikeouts last night? Like, how is that a thing? How does he hold the Jays to, what did he only allow, like 2 runs, and then they scored a couple off Pereira? Like, come on.
Yeah, I feel like that's the I feel like that's the type of year. Like, pitchers in good matchups struggle and pitchers in bad matchups excel. And I feel like that's happened a lot this year.
Yeah, so I mean, there is, as we saw with Kennedy last night, there's strikeout upside against the Jays. They do strike out a lot, but they can score plenty of runs. So that's just too scary to play Verlander.
Yeah, in a tournament, I think the strikeout upside's there, but that's about it. Like, it wouldn't be shocking if, he goes out and gives up, 3 or 4 home runs. So you're definitely taking a risk here. Let's talk bats in this game. Anybody from Detroit that you like here?
I mean, I guess you can make the case for certain Detroit bats just because Hutchison isn't very good, but because I am on him a little bit, there's no one that I'm like really gung-ho about playing. Is there someone you want to try to sell me on?
No, really, honestly, every day I give out 3 guys on Fantasy Draft that are under 8K that I just feel like they're underpriced. And this guy's underpriced just about everywhere I looked before we started here. It's Miguel Cabrera, like 7,600 for Miguel Cabrera on Fantasy Draft. He's 3,300 on FanDuel. Like, there comes to a point where you just play a guy because he's just better than everybody else and he's just too cheap, right?
Yeah, 3,800 on DraftKings. I can see that being an appealing price. So, yeah, I can get behind that.
I think it's just too cheap. Like, there becomes a time where a guy just has too much talent that you just need to play him. It's a great ballpark shift for Detroit players, and Miggy just seems way too cheap in this spot. So he'd be the one guy that I'm really interested in. If Castellanos was a little bit cheaper, I'd have some interest in him. But for the most part, I think Miggy's going to be my main target here for Detroit.
Yeah, if you're going to target a guy, he would be the one. Obviously, I mean, he's cheap, like you said. He's their best hitter, so Miggy would be the one guy.
Now looking at the Blue Jays here, I honestly on both these offenses, I wouldn't hate stacking either one in a tournament because I think there's potential here, but it's going to be hard to like play one-off guys.
I can see one-off guy. Like I actually think a Toronto stack in a tournament could be very sneaky against Verlander. I think they can definitely do some damage against him. But in cash games, they're really cheap. You're not getting any kind of discount at all. Donaldson's 5,500 on DraftKings. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, that's high.
But Michael Saunders seems pretty cheap across the board. So he could be my one-off guy just because I do think Toronto is going to score some runs. He's going to have the platoon advantage. He'll probably be hitting cleanup. And his price warrants it.
Yeah, he's been underpriced like the last week and a half. And I remember when he was like up in the 5,000s on DraftKings and we just couldn't even touch him. And now, on Fantasy Draft and DraftKings, he's a little underpriced over on Draft 2 at 7,500. I have some interest there as well. So I like that call. One other name that I'll throw out at you here, Steven Moya, pique your interest at all? He's cheap just about everywhere as well.
Yeah, let me look up what his price is. Moya, yeah, he's cheap. It looks like 2,900 on DraftKings, probably like close to 6 on.
Yeah, he's 5,700.
57, yeah, that's a good price for him. He's going to be one of maybe the only lefty in the Detroit offense today. Like you said, it's a little bit of a park boost. I can see him being a good one-off play. He has really good power, so I would not be surprised if he takes Hutchison deep.
New York heading to Cleveland to take on the Indians. We have Ivan Nova against Trevor Bauer. It didn't work out for Micah Pineda yesterday. A lot of talk about him. Just didn't work out for him, and that happens sometimes. What's your thoughts here on Bauer and Nova?
What are your thoughts on Bauer in general? Like, it seems like people love Bauer all of a sudden, and he's like the same pitcher he's always been. He's like a league average pitcher. I don't get the Bauer love.
No, and I think it's always been the same thing with him. Like, he's prone to big hits and big innings, and he's a guy that should average just around a strikeout per inning.
Yeah,
do we expect more from him?
Yeah, no, that's it. I mean, he can miss some bats, but in general, he struggles with his control. He gives up a lot of fly balls. I don't know. I don't dislike the thought of some Yankees against him today.
Especially coming off of a disappointing game against Miguel Gonzalez, the Yankees last night, pretty highly owned across the industry. It'd be a good
bias is a huge thing in the DFS industry. So people are off Yankees, then more power to them.
Yeah, I have no interest in Ivan Nova. Like, the Indians are a hot team right now. I'm not taking pitchers against them.
No, I'm not either. Especially not Nova. Yeah, I mean, people may see this isn't a Yankee Stadium, like this is a park upgrade. Like, no, Progressive Field is actually a pretty sneaky hitter's park. So I would much rather take some Indians against Nova than the other way around.
We'll start with the Yankees here. What stands out to you for Yankees bets?
Honestly, you can make the case for any number of bats in the Yankees lineup just because anytime they're up against a righty and a mediocre righty like Bauer, they're going to project well because they have so many lefties. And the thing with Bauer is that he struggles to prevent steals. So the guys at the top of the lineup, Ellsbury and Gardner, could be, a threat in that regard. It looks like Mark Teixeira is still pretty cheap. I mean, 3,200 on DraftKings. Like, he's I don't know. I can see Teixeira being like a semi punt.
I like Gardner's price. I noticed he was cheap on Fantasy Draft and on DraftKings, and he's only 3,100 on FanDuel. He's a guy that can run as well. Him and Ellsbury, I have a lot of interest in these guys, especially on FanDuel. Ellsbury only 2,600. I think he's going to be extremely popular here.
Yeah, Beltran's only 3,200 on FanDuel. That's a good price. It seemed like he'd been like way overpriced for a long time. At least on, yeah.
Yeah, just for the most part, I think that you can get the Yankees at some good value here tonight. Target the top four, even if McCann's in the lineup. The top 4 or 5 there, definitely in play. Don't play A-Rod. It's just a mistake.
Yeah, don't play A-Rod. And then obviously McCann is going to be in play as a catcher because anytime Yankees are in play, McCann is in play.
Yeah, for sure. Now, looking at the Cleveland bats here, love Carlos Santana and Jason Kipnis, 2,900 on FanDuel. Just plug him into your cash lineup.
He's been cheap for like the last, I don't know, like at least a week. Like, that's just, how is he so cheap? Yeah, he's a guy you need to seriously consider there.
Yeah, Nova, a guy, 375 WOBA, a 34.2% hard contact to lefties dating back to last year. This is a really good spot for these lefty bats.
I completely agree.
Anything else pique your interest here for Cleveland?
No, I mean, you can always make a case for Lindor at shortstop, I guess. But I mean, I think Kipnis is the guy you want to kind of home in on.
I'm with you there. I was riding Chisenhall when he was hot. It seems like he's going to start cooling down a little bit, but he still has that upside. He's shown that this season that he can put up these multi-hit games. I don't know. At 2,400 on FanDuel, I guess as a punt play, I don't hate it in this matchup. So he's another guy I guess I could get behind as a tournament option, but not a cash game play.
Yeah, I could get behind Raja if he's leading off, if he wasn't so expensive.
Yeah, I know.
Because Nova will allow steals also, but just at the price that he's at, 5,000 on DraftKings and close to 10 on Fantasy Draft, like that's too much for me.
Moving on to Washington at New York, heading to the Mets. We have Bartolo Colon against Lucas Giolito. I like this kid. I did a lot of research on him before he got called up last time. It was against the Mets. He was cruising through those 4 innings. The curveball is really nice. There's a reason that this guy is the number 1 pitching prospect in the minors.
There's definitely a reason that he is. He is, like you said, one of the top pitching prospects in baseball. He's got great stuff. I don't know if I love the matchup for him today, but there's certainly plenty of talent. The Mets can strike out a lot. I have a little bit of a hard time playing righties against the Mets because they have so many left-handed bats. They have Granderson. They have Neil Walker's better from the left side. I don't know. They have Brandon Nimmo now who's doing a little bit. James Loney, who's not a great hitter, but I mean, it's just there's a lot of lefties. So that scares me a little bit.
Yeah, you forgot to mention Jose Reyes. Like we're so come on, this Mets lineup is watered down. Like it's not the lefties that kill you like the Dudas and stuff that we started the season seeing.
Early in the year, yeah. No, it's not that. So I mean, it's not like a Mets lineup that like scares you. But I do think the strikeout upside is limited when there are so many opposite-handed batters. So even if maybe he prevents the runs to a good extent, I don't know if the strikeout upside is quite there for him.
Yeah, even in their struggles right now, the Mets, in the month of July, they're only striking out 14% of the time. So it's the third lowest behind the Angels and the Red Sox this month. So it's a smaller sample size for July, but it kind of gauges with this lineup that we've seen so far for the Mets with all these injuries that we can kind of just pay attention to what they're doing. And they're not striking out a lot, but the numbers outside of strikeouts, they're not great as well. So I don't hate him here as an SP2. I wish he was a little cheaper, but I still think he's definitely an option because we just don't have a lot of options here.
Yeah, and that's the key. There's not a lot of options. So again, I'd like to see him cheaper too, but he's definitely in play. And I think Loney actually sums it up really well. Like he's kind of a microcosm of the whole thing. Like they added him about a month ago. He's not a good hitter. He's great for run prevention, but he only strikes out like 10% of the time, and that's kind of, I don't know. I think a good analogy or a good, generalization for the whole Mets lineup these days.
Now, looking at the other side, we have Colon, who I guess we can say he's been pretty consistent this year. Like, he really doesn't get hit very hard. And when he does give up a lot of runs. But what's your thoughts here against a Nationals team that really has it going on at the plate?
I don't usually like to pick on Colon just because he's so anomalous. Like how is he 44 years old or however old he is and still doing what he's doing? Still doing the exact same thing he's done for like 7 years. Like how? But he's still doing it. He's still a solid pitcher. But the Nats, like you said, the Nats are really good right now. They project really well against him according to my numbers. So I can definitely get behind some Nats today.
That's good because my second fantasy draft comes from the Nats today. Under 8K, way under 8K. I think he's way underpriced for this matchup. It's Jason Worth. He's 6,600. I absolutely love him in this matchup. I'm going to have a lot of shares of Worth here.
That is a really cheap price. 6,600 on Fantasy Draft, 33 on DraftKings. He'll be hitting second. That is much too cheap for Worth.
Yeah, this grades out as a really good matchup for Worth too against Colon. So I really like him. I think you can look at the obvious: Daniel Murphy, Bryce Harper, Ramos, and I wouldn't even leave out a guy like Rendon right now, who's swinging the bat a lot better than he did last year.
Yeah, which doesn't surprise me. Like I think he struggled a little bit with injuries last year, but like he was one of the top picks in the draft. He was an elite prospect, one of the best hitting prospects in all of baseball. So seeing him kind of turn it around, especially now that it seems like he's finally having a full healthy season, I'm a buyer of Rendon.
Oh, I love him. 2 years ago I played him so much and it didn't disappoint at all. And like you said, dealt with a lot of injuries last year. I'm really happy when I get to see guys get healthy again and they're right back to where they were. I don't know if he's necessarily right back to where he was, but he's definitely swinging the bat well. What's your thoughts here? We have to bring him up. Danny Espinosa, give me your thoughts here.
I mean, you know that I'm a cash game guy, so there is zero chance I can play Espinosa batting 7th or 8th for the price that he's going to command right now. Like, no chance whatsoever. If you're running out a national stack in the GPP, then yeah, maybe you can consider like a wraparound stack or like a middle of the order stack plus Espinosa or something if you just want to differentiate yourself. For me, I don't know if it's the best way to go. I mean, if I'm going with a Nat stack, it's probably, Worth, Harper, Murphy, and Ramos. But, I mean, Espinosa, he's got pop. There's always a chance of a home run.
He certainly does. 18 home runs this year. He's making Trey Turner lose his mind in the minors because with him hitting all these home runs, he's just left Trey Turner down there in AAA. So yeah. Now,
because I want to see Trey Turner in the majors. Like he's so talented, and he was so cheap when he came up for that weekend. Like I used him every day, I think.
Well, yeah, you had to. Like he is very talented. Bats here against Giolito. Do you like anybody from the Mets?
No, I mean, I'm not as big on Giolito as you are today, but I'm not necessarily picking on him either. I mean, you can maybe pick a one-off. You could pick like a Granderson or a Neil Walker if, because second base is generally tough to fill sometimes where he's cheap. Walker's been kind of underpriced a lot lately. I could see him as a one-off, but that would be about it.
Yeah, I never can hate on a Cespedes one-off in tournaments. The guy has massive power. That's kind of it for me. Minnesota at Texas, Chichi Gonzalez, Tyler Duffy. Before we get into these pitchers, I just want to bring something up, and I kind of want to get your thoughts. We're gonna see a lot of wind coming in from right field in this game. Like when I was looking at it before the podcast, it was like 17, 18 miles an hour. Granted, it's the night before, but if you see that 18-mile-an-hour wind blowing in from right, how does that affect how you're going to attack pitchers here since we have a smaller slate?
I wish I had more certainty with this because the temperature is high. It's going to be almost 100 degrees. It's high humidity for Texas. And then we have this 18-mile-an-hour wind blowing in from, it looks like, right field. It's tough because a few years ago, that wind blowing in was great for hitting. It would bounce off the back wall. It would swirl around. It would shoot the ball back out. It was, the jet stream. We've talked about it 100 times. But it's hard to know right now how it plays because they opened up behind home plate. So theoretically, the wind should be flowing through, and it should help pitchers. But the data on wind is there's so much variance in it, and we only have like 3 years. So it's really hard to tell exactly how that wind is playing. Right now, I'm treating it like it's good for pitchers because theoretically that's what it should be doing. And so despite the high heat, I'm probably not going to be loading up on bats in this game, but there are error bars around that.
Yeah, and it's just such a game that we want to attack some bats in this game, but it really has me a little worried. And man, do I miss the jet stream! It was like the hidden gem of fantasy, and just nobody understood wind blowing out actually helps the ball. And yeah, I missed that. But all right, let's talk these pitchers: Chichi Gonzalez, Tyler Duffy. We just talked about the wind. We kind of broke down the scenario. What's your thoughts on these guys?
They're both bad pitchers. I mean, even if we're not necessarily stacking bats against them, there's zero chance you can play either of these guys.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. Do we look at some of these righty bats, I guess, where the wind wouldn't have too much, or do we just target our normal hitters and just kind of know that we're not going to get the home run upside?
Yeah, I think the latter is the way to go, unless obviously there's a good one-off righty with a good price or something like that. But I'm not necessarily going to avoid the lefties if I'm playing this game. But I mean, normally, just given the weather conditions and being that it's Arlington and weak pitchers, you would almost expect the team totals for both of these teams to be over 5. I haven't seen what Vegas has it at, but I have them both around 4.5, 4 3/4, which for a Texas day is low. So I'm having trouble figuring out exactly what I'm going to do with this game.
Yeah. So, all right. Minnesota side, Nunez is priced really high. Dozier's priced really high. And Sano's priced really high. I think that makes them interesting, very interesting in tournaments, just because I don't see a lot of people paying these price tags for them, especially on FanDuel, all over 4,000 here.
Yeah, that was the other thing because they're so expensive. I'm not going to risk the wind. If there were appealing prices, then that might be something that I would be more inclined to do. But even a guy like Shin-Soo Choo, who has just been criminally underpriced for 2 weeks, is up close to 5,000 today on DraftKings, close to 10 on Fantasy Draft. It's just I don't see a lot of value to be had here given the risk with the wind.
Yeah, I'm kind of there with you. Oh, man. So looking at the Texas side, I think that Odor is definitely still in play and Fielder's still in play and Mazara, just because these guys are just so cheap that I don't care if they hit home runs if they get some, a multi-hit game.
Yeah, on FanDuel, it looks like they're super cheap. On even on DraftKings and Fantasy Draft, they're not bad. I would like to see Mazara moved back up in the order. I think he batted 7th last night.
7th.
Yeah, which down there, he's not cash game viable. But for the price, if he's back up hitting 3 or maybe even 5, then maybe he's in consideration.
Yeah, this game is interesting. You're really going to want to pay attention to what Kevin Roth has to say about this wind. I've already tweeted at him asking him to kind of go into it when he does his article here. But, yeah, pay attention to the wind here. Atlanta at Chicago, the Cubs, Jason Hamill against Lucas Herrera. Oh, man, I just murdered his name too, but I don't even care. What's your thoughts on Hamill when we're looking at the slate?
Hold on, did you say Lucas Herrera?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he's white.
he's gonna be mad at me. He's gonna send a tweet, and especially after I talked really bad against him with the Miami start. So anyway, Jason Hamill, does he pique your interest at all on a slate that we don't have a lot of options, and he gets the high hitting, hard power Braves?
No, zero interest in Hamill, and I hope people have interest in him and play him because that's going to be dead money in my opinion.
He's going to be – no, I'm not playing him, but I think he's going to be popular.
Well, then, excellent.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I think he's going to be one of the biggest favorites on the day, and I think he's going to be popular. But, you know.
Yeah, I think dead money is going too far, especially because I didn't realize he is pretty cheap. So I can see him being cheap. I just, in general, I don't really like righties against Atlanta. But when I look down the list of all the other pitchers today, like, sure. I mean, really, it's like, you know, Drew Hutchison. It's, you know, yeah. There's not a lot of other good options. So, yeah.
Everybody has an asterisk next to their name tonight.
It really is true. Like normally I will not even consider a righty against Atlanta. That's why when you brought up Hamill, I'm like, nope, there's no way I like Hamill. But
and then you thought about it and you're like, well.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, the Braves are getting a park upgrade. They don't strike out that much against righties. They're going to roll out 7 lefties, but who else are you going to play?
And you know, that's why we do the podcast. And you know, two brains are better than one. I'm really not on Hamill here, but. And even I know you're not a big BVP person, but even the Braves have good BVP against Hamill. So I think I'm going to stick to my initial thought and kind of stay away from him.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a guy I'm rushing out to buy, but for the price, I can maybe see him as an SP2, honestly, which is just awful.
Yeah, you know, considering price, you're really looking at like him, Paxton, and Cologne kind of the same price tag on draft and DraftKings. So
yeah, and I'd take him before Paxton and Cologne.
Well, we're going to talk about Paxton. Don't you worry. Now, Harrell, I guess. Harrell. Man, I want to keep adding R-E at the end of his name. But anyway. You guys can tell it's been a long week for me. What's your thoughts? It's not really the best matchup in the world.
Yeah, it's not the best matchup in the world. It's not the best pitcher in the world. I think you can probably attack him a little bit.
Yeah, and really the Cubs, wind blowing out yesterday, everybody was on them. They disappointed. Here's the bias again. I think go right back to the well on a Cubs stack here.
Yeah, I mean, it's still really early, but the weather data that I pulled, it doesn't have any wind blowing out. I don't know if that's still going to be the case tomorrow. Obviously, if there's wind blowing out, you're going to want to get lots of Cubs exposure. But even if it's not, Harrell's a bad enough pitcher. Wrigley is a good enough park, especially when it's hot like it is today, to consider the Cubs. I mean, they're the best non-core stack today.
I think I can get behind that. Yeah, we pretty much just confessed our love for the Cubs. Is there anybody here you want from the Braves?
No.
No love for Freddie Freeman?
Freddie Freeman, yeah. You can always make a case for Freddie Freeman, especially if the wind shifts to where it's blowing out. Then you might be able to make a case for a few Braves. But Freddie Freeman, no matter what, you can definitely make a case for.
Yeah, I can always make a case for Freddie Freeman. I feel so bad for the guy having to play on this team, but how tilting is it that Alex Dickerson wasn't in the lineup and he gets in and shoots a shot to left field?
Did he really?
He didn't hit a home run, but it probably got to the left fielder before he got to halfway to first base.
Yeah, I try to avoid watching while we're recording because if anything bad happens, then I will get upset and.
Yeah. Anyway, Oakland at Houston, Rich Hill, Doug Fister. This is Hill's first start back. Did he pitch this weekend when I was out of town? He pitched this weekend when I was out of town. Thoughts on Hill here against Houston?
Hill is one of the basically I see three pitchers today that you can make a case for as being number one, and Hill is one of them. He wouldn't be a number one on a normal day. He'd be, like a kind of that middle ground where you more of like a GPP guy, like not good enough to be a one, too expensive to be a two. But today he's in play as a one, just because, the Astros strike out a decent bit. I think Minute Maid is a little bit overrated as a hitter's park. And because I think Hill's really good.
I think Hill's good too. The only thing that I think we have to be concerned here is pitch count, but it's definitely positive that he threw 83 pitches in his first start back, and we didn't hear any concerns or setbacks or anything. So I expect him to get bumped up. This guy was throwing over 100 pitches before he went in almost every start. It was a groin injury. It wasn't an arm injury. So I think that we'll see that pitch count up here. And when we look at the numbers, this guy has a massive strikeout rate against righties, and they're going to throw a ton of righties at him here.
Yeah, he's just a huge strikeout pitcher in general. That's the appeal of Hill today, is that the strikeout upside is massive.
Yep.
And like you said, the pitch count is kind of a thing, which sucks because as few options as there are today, the three that I actually really like, two of them have pitch count issues. We're going to talk about Hyunjin Ryu later, but he's the other guy that I like, and he's going to have pitch count issues too. So it's just pitching is so today.
Doug Fister on the other side of this game, below average strikeout rate, doesn't really tend to get hit hard, more of a ground ball guy. Any interest here?
In playing Doug Fister? No thanks.
Okay, just making sure. I'm telling you, man, it's going to happen. Josh Reddick is going to have a big game, and all the StatCast, batted ball data, all that stuff always says that he hits ground ball pitchers well, and I think he's an interesting option here today.
I would agree that he's an interesting option today. It's it is a park upgrade for Oakland for sure. He's going to be one of the few lefties in the lineup. He's going to have the platoon advantage. He has big power. Right field in Minute Maid is underrated in terms of power in my mind. Everyone focuses on left field with the Crawford boxes. Right field is just as good for home runs.
Yeah, I think it's a good hitter's ballpark in general. It's definitely not Petco, but it's definitely not Coors, but I think it's a favorable park. I don't get super excited, but I do like right-handed power here. So anyway, Danny Valencia, any of these other guys really stand out to you here?
Not really. As bad as a pitcher as Doug Fister is, this Oakland offense really isn't that good. It's going to be super right-handed. I don't know. I can't really see a case for anyone other than Reddick, or if I don't know, somebody super cheap is in there batting seventh, I don't know, McBride, or I don't know. I don't even know who it would be, but just that's the only other scenario I could see where another Oakland A's bat would be in play.
Now, going to the other side of things here, if I'm going to go really heavy on Hill, I would probably hedge a stack with a Houston stack, but I don't like any of these guys as one-offs.
No, I really don't either. I guess you can always make a case for a George Springer or Correa or Altuve, I guess. Hill does struggle with speed. If you're going to make a case, maybe it is for Altuve.
It is a lefty, so...
Yeah, Hill struggles a lot with stolen bases. Altuve will have the platoon advantage. Altuve is the guy you can make the case for.
He'd be the guy that I would let you make a case for then. Seattle at Kansas City. Danny Duffy, James Paxton. I like both these pitchers. It doesn't sound like you do, so let's talk.
So I don't dislike these pitchers. I think they're both very talented pitchers. Paxton hasn't quite put up a big enough sample size of the numbers that I really want to see from him yet to start treating him like a really good pitcher. But I love the stuff from a scouting standpoint. Upper 90s fastball, great knuckle curve. I like Paxton. I like Duffy. He's throwing harder this year. He's been great. I tend to avoid pitchers in Kansas City just because Kauffman Stadium, it depresses strikeouts so much that it limits the upside for me. So I have a hard time seeing Paxton. I can see Duffy just because Seattle is so left-handed. But Paxton, I would have a little bit of a hard time making a case for.
Yeah, I like Duffy a lot here. It really comes down to you're worried about Cruz, Lee, and I guess we can throw in Gutierrez there as well. That's who you're really worried about in this lineup. And I'm not going to not play a pitcher just because of three batters. Like,
Yeah,
I think Duffy, and he's been pitching deep into games. That's what we like to see. He's been racking up the strikeouts, but he's been pitching deeper into games too.
for sure. I would like Duffy a lot more if he was lower price. Like if he was at the same price as Paxton, I would be all over Duffy. But
And
he's more expensive than I want in this park.
and that's where I think the play comes in for Paxton. I think he's a little cheap here, and like you mentioned, he definitely has the talent level. Kansas City, for the most part, this lineup's pretty watered down, and I'm just not worried about this lineup right now.
See, I'm not worried about the lineup either. I love playing pitchers against Kansas City away from Kauffman, but in Kauffman, they just don't strike out at all. And so I have a hard time seeing what the upside really is for Paxton.
Yeah, but on a slate like this, do you technically need upside if he can get you 15 to 18 points?
See, that's where I guess that's where I differ. Like I don't know if he's a lock for those 15 to 18 points. Like guys who aren't getting strikeouts for me, they're just too risky to play because they have to walk such a fine line. Even if we think the run prevention is going to be there, which I'm not 100% convinced it will be, but let's say it is, even if we think Paxton is a great bet to prevent runs, he has to walk such a fine line. If he's only going to get, let's say, 4 strikeouts or something, if he gives up even 2 runs or 3 runs, like it ruins his whole night.
Paxton or Giolito, $300 difference.
I would take Giolito.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. Just wanted to make sure that I could get you to say his name one more time for me here. Bats in this game outside of Nelson Cruz and Daeho Lee, I want nothing to do with this game.
Wait, say that one more time.
I said outside of Nelson Cruz and Lee, I want nothing to do with this game.
Oh, right. Yeah. I am right there with you. I mean, I guess just because I'm a little down around Paxton, I can maybe make a case if there's like a cheap Kansas City one-off, but there's no one that really sticks out to me as that, so I really don't have a lot of interest in bats here.
The report finally came out why Morales was out of the lineup Wednesday, dealing with some back tightness. If he's back out of the lineup, that takes away one of the bats we worry about.
Yes, it would. That would make a difference.
I definitely think it would too. Morales not a staple to pick on, but he does have 15 home runs this season.
Yeah, no, Morales is one of the more talented hitters in their lineup these days, which kind of speaks to what the quality of that lineup is right now.
This game. Philadelphia at Colorado. Chad Bettis, Adam Morgan. Oh, man. All right. We don't want either one of these pitchers, I'm assuming. You don't want Chad Bettis.
No, I will not be taking either of these pitchers.
All right, let's talk bats in this game. We'll start with Philadelphia. Who really stands out to you here?
I mean, you can make a case for a number of Phillies bats, and man, it's rare that Phillies bats are really in play. Like they're the second best offense tonight at Coors Field.
Yeah, and if you're looking on FanDuel, you're gonna find some really nice value.
You definitely are. So I mean, I think Odubel Herrera has to be an option. I think I always mispronounce his name. Michael Franco. He's starting to heat up a little bit, finally starting to hit. He's going to be a great option tonight. Those would be the first 2 guys that I would look at. Tommy Joseph, what's his price? He's perpetually very cheap. Even in Coors, not that high of a price for Tommy Joseph. So those would be the 3 Phillies that I would probably target.
Tommy Joseph is
Cody Ashley too. Cody Ashley's always cheap.
Yeah, I like Ashley. That was the one guy I was saying you can find some nice value. Tommy Joseph is more expensive than Miguel Cabrera.
Well, that's just insane. Play Miguel Cabrera.
Yeah, I don't care if it's Coors. I don't care if he gets the hit from second base. Well, maybe if he gets hit from second base. But, yeah, I'm with you there. I like Herrera, Sheik. I think that these guys are definitely in play. If you're playing on FanDuel, I think you can even throw Cameron Rupp in the mix because he does have the power to where a warning shot track would be a home run here.
I would agree with you. I mean, It's not like he's a guy that I love. I think some people like him more than I do, but there's definitely home run potential with him.
Colorado getting the lefty Adam Morgan. Nolan Arenado, is he the first guy you're putting in your lineup and you're building around?
He's got to be the best play today, easily. He's a little expensive, but I am going to make every effort to play him. The only counterpoint I would make to that is just that I do think the Cubs are really strong plays today. I think Chris Bryant is a strong play as well. If there's a site where Bryant is significantly cheaper, I could see fading Arenado for him. But like on DraftKings and Fantasy Draft, where Bryant is even more expensive than Arenado, then Arenado's your guy.
I still think if Bryant's cheaper, I'm still going to pay up for Arenado.
It would have to be like significantly cheaper, not like a couple $100.
Yeah, I think all the righties are definitely in play here for Colorado. Morgan, he struggled mightily with right-handed bats since he got called up last year, and he's a guy that has a really high fly ball rate to righties. So I really like these right-handed bats. I think you can make a case for just about any of them. Yeah,
I mean, I would agree with you. Nick Hundley, I think, is going to be a good cheap-ish catcher play, assuming he's in the lineup. And honestly, I don't hate lefties. In Coors Field, like, I'm okay with playing a Carlos Gonzalez where his price dictates it. Like, 5,600 on DraftKings. That's insane.
About to say.
I've never seen Carlos Gonzalez priced that high against a lefty.
Yeah, well, I think that I'm glad that he's priced that high. I don't have to worry about him too much.
Yeah, I always feel a little weird playing him because usually he's like 4,500, and I'll play him anyway just because, it's Coors Field. It's a weak lefty. He's probably going to get knocked out early anyway. But no, not at that price.
Now, Trevor Story, I know he's been cold, but 3,200 on FanDuel, you have to play a shortstop there. I feel like that's really cheap.
That's too cheap. He's a must play. I'll say it. You have to play Story at that price.
Yeah, even in tournaments, I think he's going to be very popular. I like that price tag. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this game. San Diego at Los Angeles taking on the Dodgers. Pomeranz against Ryu. This is his first start since 2014. I'm guessing it was Tommy John.
Yeah. Okay. No, actually, I don't know. It was shoulder. He got injured a couple times, I think. I know there was a shoulder surgery in there. There might have been a Tommy John too.
Okay, because when I was looking at the slate and I was like, man, I didn't realize he hasn't pitched since 2014.
Yeah, he looked like he was healthy. I think last year it looked like he might come back, and then he got hurt again. And yeah, I forget exactly what was going on with him, but he's had a rough road.
We have to think that he's going to be on a pitch count here, right?
Yeah, it looked like he topped out at, I think, 82 or 83 in his last rehab start. So we're probably looking at maybe 90, I would think 95 tops today. But even with that, given the state of today's pitching, you can make a case for him as your number one. You really can.
Can you at this price, though, on Draft and DraftKings? I feel like it's so high.
It's high.
Like 10-3, wouldn't you rather just pay the extra $1,100 for Rich Hill and take the risk against Houston?
See, I don't know if I would because I love the matchup so much. Like, he's at home. He's in a great park, great catcher. I have an unhealthy obsession with Dodgers pitchers to begin with, but I think it's warranted because they continue to pitch so well. And it's against San Diego. They strike out a bunch. They're all right-handers, aside from Ryan Schimpf, who's just the man.
Oh, man. Your man crush on him. And you called it on the podcast or the Grinders Live show yesterday. I was listening before Grinders Live, the last call.
Yeah, there were a lot of LOLs in the chat at that one.
Yeah, and you got another home run out of him here.
The 2 nights in a row, he hits a home run. He crushes both of them. Like, yeah, he struggled when he came up, but there's a lot of talent in that bat.
See, but I think we can make like another case on the other side of here for Pomeranz being the number one pitcher on the slate. Like, the Dodgers have really struggled against lefties lately, and this season their numbers have been really bad.
I completely agree. Pomeranz, like I said, there's 3 guys I'm considering as my number one. It's Hill, it's Ryu, and it's Pomeranz. I love Pomeranz. I pulled up DraftKings before the show, hoping to see Pomeranz at like 8K because it seems like he's been struggling a little bit lately. And for whatever reason, I haven't played him. Like it's been an early slate, or like he's just been too expensive, or there's been other guys. But I love Pomerantz. I was expecting him to be cheaper, and he's too expensive. Like I want to play him. It's a good matchup. It's Dodger Stadium. They have a bunch of lefties, but the price is throwing me a little bit.
Yeah, and I feel like this is a slate where there's so many good value hitters. We talked about it. How many value hitters did we talk about? Like, you might not be able to get a lot of exposure to cores, but it might be a slate just to take some of these value guys and pay up for pitchers.
I can see that. I definitely can. But when you have cores, when you have a Wrigley game where the Cubs are gonna score like a lot of runs, I don't know. Like I'm more inclined to, at least right now, this could very much change. But if I can save $1,400 on DraftKings on going with Ryu instead of Pomerantz, like that's going to make a big difference on the hitting side.
Yeah, it could be the difference of getting Arenado and not getting him.
It really is.
So yeah, I think it's an interesting slate because of that. I envy you guys cash game guys because I think it's a great tournament slate. So you guys are going to have fun making your lineups, and I'm going to be sitting over here licking my chops for this slate to start. So it's an interesting slate. Is there any bats that you want here in this game, San Diego at Los Angeles?
No, definitely not. I like both of these pitchers. They're two of the strongest of the night. It's not a good hitting environment. I'm going to avoid all bats.
Yeah, usually I would make a case for Trace Thompson, but I don't know if this is the best spot for him.
No, I don't think it is either. I'm a big Pomerantz fan, so I can't really see the case.
I'm a big fan as well. I'm also a fan of the home run derby, and with just one swing, home runs can be the ultimate game changer. At T-Mobile, we know how to change the game for good. Doubled our LTE coverage to reach 309 million Americans. I'm echoing.
Yeah, it sounded a little echoey.
I can. Oh, why is it doing that? Do you have a microphone?
Yeah, you sound fine to me now. Am I echoing or what's going on?
It's still echoing. We'll do our home run picks, and I'll cut and do that. I'll edit it in.
Okay.
All right, up next, our favorite segment here. We're going to play some home run derby, and no Coors Field, and I'll let you go first.
No Coors Field. Okay, so then
always rule out Coors Field.
Okay, I will take. I'll take Chris Bryant.
Of course you will. I can't give you two Cubs, so I have to take Rizzo off the table for you.
Okay, I'll give you Rizzo. Let's see. I will take. This is a tough one today. Okay, I'm gonna take. This one's gonna be. I'm gonna take Bryce Harper.
Oh man, really reaching here. I called it yesterday. I'm going to go back to the well hoping that this big game happens. I'm going to go Josh Reddick.
All right. And this one's going to be a little bit more out there, but I'm going to go with Edwin Encarnacion. I think I don't know. I think Verlander with his reverse splits. I think Toronto's going to be really sneaky today.
Jason Worth with my last one. I really think this is a good matchup for him.
I like it.
And that's going to wrap that up. And I'm not even going to take anybody off the table today. If you had to pick one pitcher at the end of the night to pick up a win, who would you have here?
Oh, God. To pick up a win because, like...
Doesn't have to score the most fantasy points, but you think he's going to pick up a win.
I'm going to go with... I hate to do it. I really do. I'm going to go with Jason Hamill.
The run support should definitely be there.
Yeah, the run support's going to be there, so sure, Hamill.
I think I'm going to go with Rich Hill. I think Rich Hill is going to pick up a win here.
I like his chances, too.
I really thought about Danny Duffy, too. I think he's in a good spot to pick up a win. But anyway, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, just I don't know. I guess I guess, hold your nose when it comes to your second pitcher because you want to try and get some of these bats in. And yeah, I mean, nobody wants to play Drew Hutchison, but I think I'm going to.
Oh man, all the Drew Hutchinson hate mail to Derek, not to Stevie.
It's the kind of day two that where lineups are going to make a big difference. Umpires are going to make a big difference. Like my second starters are all there's like 10 of them lumped together. So it's going to be who separates themselves with lineups and then who's just priced well. And right now that price edge is going to Hutchison.
Yep. Make sure you guys head on over to RotoGrinders and check out the bat, and have all that umpire data and stuff factored into the projections, so you can kind of get an idea of where Derek might end up on his SP2. That's going to wrap it up here for us on the podcast today. We'll be back tomorrow. Good luck in your contest tonight, and we'll see you then.